Okay, it's 5 o'clock. Let's start the meeting, April 10th. All board members are in attendance, as is Kristen Kennedy and Mark Taylor. Is Tim coming?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll read the meeting format while we wait for him. In keeping with an act, 1 second. In keeping with the act, an act relative to extending certain state of emergency accommodations, this meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board committee members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count toward quorum. The meeting will be broadcast live and recorded on ECAT. To use your Zoom, you will need to use the link on the agenda or download the Zoom application at www.zoom.us and create an account or use one of the call-in numbers listed on the agenda. You will need the webinar ID to join by phone only. While conducting meetings remotely, we will endeavor to keep meeting operations as close to our standard procedures as possible. However, use of this platform will necessitate some additional meeting protocols. While the board members or commissioners and applicants will be on video and audio, the public participation will join the webinar as attendee, meaning they are muted with no video feed from them. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, members of the public can be recognized by using the raise hand function found under participants from Zoom, or make a request with the Q&A function. If you're joining only by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. If an applicant wishes to display materials, please make the request of the chair and the email materials to board staff for sharing on screen. When starting testimony, please state your name and address for the record. There is a markup function in Zoom which will allow you to call out specific areas of presentation materials. As in any public meeting, indecent behavior will not be tolerated, and anyone who abuses use of the meeting platform will be terminated from the meeting. Businesses will be handled at the times indicated on the agenda. Business not concluded in the allotted time will be tabled to the end of the meeting to allow for timely logins and remote attendance. Board members are asked to announce themselves when making a motion and second, so that it'll be clear to the audience and minute takers who make motions. All votes will be by roll call. When all business indicated on the agenda has been completed, the members will vote to adjourn the meeting, signaling the end of the meeting and the termination of the ECAT recording. All participants will be disconnected from the webinar at that time. Applicants will join the webinar as an attendee and promoted to panelist at their agenda item. Applicants will then be able to share their screens and present their materials. As much as possible, presentation materials should be provided beforehand and loaded in Permit-I so that the materials can be included in the public record. Individual board chairs and staff may wish to keep screen sharing to their computer. Applicants are encouraged to speak with staff prior to the meeting on how material will be presented. And our next board meeting is May 8th at 5 p.m. Okay, so the first thing on the agenda is 163 Washington Street, a variance from Title V, Section 1520, in order to use meter reading in lieu of specific flow requirements for building usage. As an alternative, proposing that using 2 times the actual meter readings accurately reflects the usage.
So if you'd like, Madam Chair, I can have the trustee and the engineer promoted to panelists.
Yes, please.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome.
Can I start the presentation?
Yep, and just announce who you are.
Sure. My name is Scott Rogers from JK Holmgren Engineering.
Thank you.
With me
Scott,
tonight.
can I just start with a question first?
Sure.
What section of Title V are you actually asking for a variance from?
I believe it's section 1520.
Okay, there is no 1520 in Title V.
Okay. I'll have to look that up for you then.
Okay,
So basically, we are asking for a variance to use water meter readings instead of actual Title V usage, if you will, for the building. And that existing building has a laser spa. It has 2 retail spaces in it. It has a hair salon. It has a 1-bedroom apartment and a 2-bedroom apartment as well. When you do the math, and I can share the screen if you want me to, but I did submit 2 plans. And the first sheet is C1. On that plan, there's a calculation of those different flows. And when you add those flows up, you get a total of 2,205 gallons per day. The existing septic system design is for 1,226, I believe, gallons
That's
per
correct.
day. So we did have the water meter readings were pulled. Obviously, every month is shown on there. And when you look at the water meter readings, the summer months are obviously significantly higher than the rest of the year because of irrigation use and all that. So we went through and we calculated the existing water meter readings for those non-summer months, and we averaged them out. We got a flow of about 638 gallons per day. So that doesn't include the summer months. And when you multiply by 2, which is what Title V will allow you to do using the water meter readings, you get 1,276 gallons per day. So you can see that 1,276 and 1,226 is relatively close. So we are proposing an additional two-bedroom unit. And we've also included some pumping records that we got. We should note that the salon does have a 2,000-gallon tight tank. So that particular gallonage, which has been pumped out typically once a year, would not be going to the septic system. So that would actually come out of the equation as well. And then, so the system has been well maintained. The actual septic tank itself has been pumped out at least once a year. I think one year I looked at it was pumped out in February and maybe in December. So technically twice in the same year. Everything's been pumped out. Everything's been working fine. I think we found that the flows for the water meter readings are obviously accurate, and the Title V for this particular use is a lot bigger than what's actually being used. The other thing I would point out is that we did a second page which would show if a new septic system was required. We're showing a large septic system in the front of the site, more towards Washington Street. But one of the hardships that we have is the way the drainage system for this particular property is set up. There are catch basins at near the building sidewalk, if you will, and also on the opposite side of the parking area with a drain manhole right in the middle. So each catch basin goes at an angle, let's say a 45-degree angle or so to those catch basins or to those drain manholes. And then there's a second set further down away from the street towards the rear of the parking lot. So in order to build this septic system, we'd have to basically install a couple of new drain manholes, all new piping, and we'd be ripping up pretty much about 60% of the parking lot and repaving that to install the septic system with the new drainage system relocated, if you will. So that basically is what we're proposing or what we're asking for as a variance. And I'd like to answer any questions that you may have.
I do have a couple of comments for the board. So right now, the water meter readings are showing that they do probably accurately represent what is going on there and coming in at the 1,276 ish gallons per day. What they're asking to do with this variance would allow them to add an additional 220 gallons per day on top of that. at a very minimum, if there weren't additional pieces to this, I would strongly suggest that at a bare minimum, a Title V inspection be required to show that the system is not under stress now. But when we look at the safety net that they're proposing of having a drafted replacement system on file, there's some problems with that plan as well. The test hole locations are not shown, so we don't know, or we can't tell from looking at that drawing whether or not the soils in the area where they are proposing that they could put a new system would even support a new system. They're not showing reserve. We would expect that to be to new construction standards, because that's what would be required today to actually do this without a variance, would be a new construction system large enough for all the design flows that Title V calls out. That would require at least, I think we have two original test holes, or two test holes are shown on that plan. Again, their locations are not shown. Since the system would be designed over 2,000 gallons per day, there would be at least 5 test holes required. They would have to show the primary area and the reserve area and show that the soils in those areas support putting in this new septic system. So I'm not entirely comfortable that even if we were in a position where we were just repairing for what's there and not adding anything, that we actually have the soils and the area to do it properly.
This might be a stupid question, but is there some reason why there's not a plot plan in this? Or did I miss it?
I didn't,
It wasn't in your packet, no.
I didn't see it. It's really hard to make any decisions without visualizing it, and it sounds like we have more work to do before a decision can be made.
And I think we need to clarify which section of Title V they're looking for a variance from.
So
And
a Title V has not been run, correct?
Pardon?
A Title V has not been done, correct?
No, a Title V, and to my knowledge, a Title V inspection has not been done, which is, it's not required at this point. And
Okay.
that's what we typically see for real estate transfers and everything else, but there's a little caveat in there in the code that says at any other time that the board feels it would be useful information, you can ask for one. At a minimum, I think that should be done. Let's make sure that the system isn't showing signs of stress now, since it's getting the maximum, it's getting just about what it was designed for, according to the water meter reading. And what this proposal would do would be to increase it by an additional 220 gallons per day. And then, as I said, not having soils and things that support that the full-size system could go in does make me a little cautious.
So is this something we should, I'm feeling like, and I don't know what the rest of the board feels, that we should have these other things checked on and before we can make this decision.
In order to do that, do we deny this variance and put caveats on what could be proposed?
I think you could table it till next month.
Okay.
Okay.
It's probably the cleaner way to do it.
Yeah.
And then we can make sure we have the right section number, the Title V, and whatever else we need.
So I make a
Do you
motion.
have locations of those soil tests?
I do have them. I don't have them right in front of me, but they were on
Okay.
older plans. I believe they're in the area where the existing system is located right now.
So to come all the way up to the street, we'd want at least one hole, and I mean, it would be a gamble that we could even duplicate it across 5 holes.
Well, I guess the question I would have is, we wouldn't want to rip up the parking lot for a potential septic system that we may install someday.
Is there a septic plan on file somewhere that's submitted with this, or am I just missing it?
No, it is. And if they want to give me permission to share my screen, I can show you the plans that we submitted along with it.
Let me see if I
Unless Kristen can do it.
So, Scott, I'm gonna promote you to co-host,
Okay,
which should give you the ability to screen share.
can you see that screen?
Not yet, no.
Not yet. Oh, how about now?
Here we go.
Okay,
Whew.
so that's the second one. Let's go to, that's the first one. So you can see Washington Street on the left. You can see the building.
So we're just in your, we don't have. You
You gotta
don't
open the
have
file.
share. Yeah,
Yeah, we're just seeing your,
All right,
directory.
what happened to me last time? too. I might need Kristen to help me out with this screen sharing because it's not working on my end.
Are you seeing the plan, Scott, when you, on your
Yeah,
screen?
I'm seeing it.
That's strange. Okay.
Screen sharing.
All right, can you try double clicking on it again, just to see if,
Wait a minute, hold on a second. See, it says I'm screen sharing. I guess I can hit stop share and try it again.
well,
Let's see.
We were seeing your screen, but we were only seeing the file. You gotta double click the file to expand it.
All right, try that.
There you
there,
go.
There we go.
Okay. We need young people to do this technical stuff.
yeah.
So you can see the Washington Street, you can see the building hatched on the southern side of the property. You can see the parking lot on the north. And then the septic system is in the very back west side of the property, those leaching field back here in this area. And when I was talking to you about the second, the proposed plan, if you will, so that septic system would be up in front here. And then there's a catch basin located right here and right here. There's 4 of them right in this front parking area. And there's a manhole right where that septic system would go. So the other hardship I would say is that this whole parking lot would have to be ripped up to replace and move that drainage system to make room for a septic system. So
Could
That's
you
fine.
not put it where the other system was, remove and replace in the existing spot? They look about the same square footage.
you could, but then you'd be shutting down the entire plaza for, a week or 2 weeks to install that whole system.
3 days. I've seen them done in 3 days. So I'm just saying.
and I would think constructing it in the front, you have the same issue. Now you're constructing it in the driveway.
Yeah, either way, you shut it down.
Yep.
And at least we think that the soils were done where the existing system is.
Right. The other thing I mentioned in the letter to the Board of Health was the applicant's willing to consider some mitigation for the approval of the variance, if you will. And a couple things they've talked about doing would be to install some low flow plumbing fixtures for instance, low flow toilets to help with that flow. And there was a discussion too about potentially reducing the number of chairs in the salon. Right now, that salon has 14 chairs total.
And just for the board, each chair represents 100 gallons per day. So if they were to remove 2 chairs from the salon, that gets you very close to the 220 that the 2-bedroom apartment would need. Again, I think a Title V inspection should be done just to confirm that the system is not under stress, as it is.
I have to agree with that.
You know, then swapping 200 gallons of flow from the salon to 200 gallons upstairs and having a plan for the eventual failure might have a different level of comfort for.
I think it's a big ask for a variance without a Title V. I agree.
Agreed.
And just clarification too as to which section we're talking about.
So can I make a motion to table this until a Title V has been performed on this property, as well as specifying which part of Title V they request the variance from?
Second. All those in favor?
Zayas, yes.
Mills, yes.
LeBlanc, yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I guess we'll see you in May.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
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 Good night.
Okay, and the next thing we have on the agenda is well regulations.
Okay, do the pretty much the situation where we're not sure we were going to meet in person or meet remotely. And with Lynn, your last meeting, congratulations and thank you for your service. We look to, I think we're going to have this push off. We're going to leave it on the on the agenda and aim for June. That way we get a new person in for your spot, hopefully. And then we can explain what's going on with it. And then we can put out the hearing notice for June.
That
So
sounds good.
that's
Thank
just
you.
an update.
Sounds great.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And then the next item on the agenda is the novel coronavirus updates.
So not a lot to report. You know, as everybody knows, the end of the COVID-19 public health emergency is coming at the middle of May. It'll be ended in Massachusetts and will align with the federal ending of the public health emergency. You know, we're still hearing little bits and pieces about things that may trickle and may have effects after the fact. You know, funding, pricing on vaccine, things like that. So we'll continue to follow that like we would, you know, flu or anything else. As far as the meetings, it's been extended now for remote through 2025. This will continue to be an option for meetings. And we won't have to be worrying about every 3 to 6 months having to go through, are we doing this or are we not doing this? That's all I have. Our numbers are very, very low, but it's still out there. You know, we know people personally that escaped it till a couple weeks ago, so it's still out there, but definitely manageable. And that's about it on COVID.
Okay. And then the meeting format, you touched upon it. Do you guys want to just keep it on the agenda until the next board member comes, or what do you want to do?
I think maybe it makes sense to table that until June, like Mark said, when theoretically another board member's on. If
Okay.
that works for you, Chris.
All right, and then betterments?
There are none this month.
Okay. And then I think we just have to finish by any staff notes or member notes? No? And we
Nope.
just, okay, we just need to accept the minutes from March 13th.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from Board of Health meeting dated March 13th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Zeiss, yes.
Mills, yes.
LeBlanc, yes. All right, and let's make a motion to adjourn the meeting. If there's nothing else, at 5:25.
Second.
All those in favor?
Zeiss, yes.
Mills, yes.
LeBlanc, yes. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you,
Yes,
guys.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Lynn.